We start in Zimbabwe, which for the first time in 7 years has launched its own currency. Well, sort of. Zimbabwe dumped its banknotes in 2009 for the US dollar amid hyperinflation. But this week, after months of speculation, a local quasi-currency called bond notes began circulating. They can't be used outside the country and officially trade on par with the greenback. It's hoped they'll help ease a crippling shortage of dollars in Zimbabwe. However, the bond notes have gotten off to a rather rocky start. For more, I spoke to Rahman Yang from Global Business Africa.
We're getting reports from Zimbabwe of a protest that had to be broken up by the Zimbabwean police using tear gas and water cannons. So that should give you an idea of the depth of resentment and fear against this fairly interesting monetary policy experiment. The rest of us not in Zimbabwe have the luxury of looking at it purely as an economic exercise. But unfortunately, if you're in Zimbabwe with all the memories of hyperinflation from 2008, 2009, hyperinflation really in the millions of percentage points here, this sort of currency looks essentially like a backdoor entrance for the Zimbabwean dollar. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has come up, that is not the case here. This currency is only intended to alleviate the cash shortage that we've been having for the last couple of months, in fact, most of this entire year. The problem is, though, that Zimbabweans simply are not convinced that their government authorities are actually looking for the right solutions. And to a certain extent, they are entirely correct, because introducing this currency doesn't alleviate the core problems that Zimbabwe is dealing with. It doesn't deal with the current account deficit. It doesn't deal with the trade deficit they're currently running for a couple of years now, which is basically just exporting capital right out of the country. And it certainly doesn't deal with the other concerns that investors also have with regard to Zimbabwe's investment environment, namely jitters around that 51% investment, 51% ownership rule that ZANU-PF has clung to and still defends very, very.
So just to clarify, why exactly did the government introduce this? Why do they think it could be successful?
Well, let's give you some background to this particular problem first. Post-2008, Zimbabwe, of course, comes right off the back of all this hyperinflation. So they decide, you know what, we're going to retire the Zimbabwean dollar. We're going to adopt other currencies. And to that end, they use the American dollar, the South African rand, Botswana's pula, among a range of other legal tender, including China's yuan. Now, these bond notes specifically were introduced to deal with a cash shortage. You've had reports, as you've probably seen on air, of individuals literally spending the night outside their banks just because they are waiting to get their $50 or $100 maximum withdrawal for the day. And these bond notes are meant to alleviate that cash shortage problem. Because remember, within Zimbabwe's economy, it's largely driven by cash transactions. You want to pay for your groceries, you pay by cash, you don't pay by card. So the absence of the US dollar, which is preferred and trusted in the country, was a big, big problem. And the authorities, especially the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, hoped that introducing these bond notes perhaps would actually alleviate that cash problem and get the economy spending once again.
Well, it'll certainly be interesting to see what happens. Let's move on to some other news now, Rama, and let's turn to your neck of the woods. Kenya, which has signed a major infrastructure investment deal with China. What more can you tell us?
It's a $225 million deal, Paul, and it covers the construction of about 480 or so kilometers of road in a part of the country which, if we're entirely honest, has been really starved of infrastructure. Investment really hasn't gone into that part of the world since independence, pretty much. It covers about 480 kilometers, connects the eastern part of the country, and essentially acts as a link road going towards southern Ethiopia. And that's part of the wider drive to essentially expand infrastructure investments across that part of the country, not just from that particular eastern end of Kenya, but also, of course, down to the coast of the port of Lamu, to the port of Mombasa, and, of course, up by air, by road, and by rail as well, into Ethiopia and South Sudan as well.
Thanks to Rahman Yang there from Global Business Africa.